This is The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. There's this weird phenomenon that happens with runners. For some reason, we feel guilt and even shame for doing this. It's as if we're cheating ourselves or not quite giving 100%, even when we're doing the work on paper. For some runners, it's such a negative experience that they'd rather not even run at all. It's running on the treadmill. Treadmill miles are seen as less than or not as good as the same run outside. Clearly, we are not adequately preparing ourselves for an outdoor race if we are doing some or all of our training inside, on a machine that moves our feet for us, right? Is treadmill running actually just as good for your training or not? Let's find out. Welcome to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and my mission is to help you improve your running, your mindset, and your life with science-backed training and plant-based nutrition. Today, we are going to get into everything you need to know about treadmill running. You'll learn if the treadmill really is the same as running outside, if you really need to adjust the incline or play around with your speed to make it more like outdoors, and why doesn't the machine ever line up with your running watch? I'll also go over how to use the treadmill to get the best workout, and I'll even get into how to make the dreadmill less dreadful. And it goes without saying, if you are running hours on the treadmill or braving the elements outside, you're the perfect candidate for the PR team. These are your people. Everyone on the PR team gets a custom running schedule created by me, including all your strength, mobility, mental strength, and more. No more decision fatigue on what you should do today. It's all laid out for you perfectly on the app, which syncs to your running watch. You'll be joining a team of runners just like you. They are all ages, they're all paces, and we're all doing the same thing and cheering each other on. It really is the best way to stay accountable and true to your goals while also getting a built-in group of new running buddies. I'll talk more about the team later on in the show, but if you are ready to learn more right now, head over to theplantedrunner.com/group. Don't forget to stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode for another mental strength minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. When it's ridiculously hot outside in the summer or you're up to your eyeballs in snow in the winter, the treadmill can be a savior to keep you running when Mother Nature has other plans in mind. If you are a treadmill avoider, it might be hard to imagine that there are people who love them, but I promise you there are. But there are certainly many more runners that truly despise it and won't touch their toes on one. After all, it was originally invented in the 19th century as a torture device for prisoners. But we've come a long way since then. If you are lucky enough to have access to a treadmill, or unlucky, depending on your perspective, how can you be sure you're getting the same workout as you would outside? I'm sure a lot of you out there have just said out loud, raise the incline to 1%. Well, raising the incline can make the treadmill a little bit harder, but that is not the full story. In fact, I recommend that unless you are specifically doing hill work, leave the incline flat. I'll get into why in just a minute. So what's the deal with almost everyone thinking that you have to raise the incline? The idea behind this is that the energy cost of running at a given pace on the treadmill is slightly lower than it is outdoors because you don't have to push against air resistance. In other words, for most people, the treadmill is easier than outside, so raising the incline neutralizes that. In addition, you also dissipate body heat more readily outdoors than you do on the treadmill. So by raising the angle of the treadmill belt to 1%, this difference disappears and running on the treadmill is no longer easier than running outside. So where did the 1% rule come from? Well, it came about in the early 1990s when researchers found that at speeds of 803 minutes per mile and slower, the energy costs both inside and out were about the same. But when you crank it up to 709 minutes per mile and faster, which translates to 427 per kilometer, then you need to raise the incline to 1% to create equal energy costs as outside. This is because the air resistance increases at faster paces when you're running outdoors. So you need to compensate for that inside with the incline. So there you go. Keep the incline at 0 for slower speeds and crank it up 1% for faster speeds, right? Not so fast. The problem with that quick and simple fix is that running is way more complex than that. There's a whole lot more going on when you run on a treadmill than just wind resistance. It turns out, even though running on a treadmill is easier physically, research shows that you're faster outside. That's right, you are faster outside despite the fact that it's harder. What's going on? It has everything to do with your brain. Research studies on the treadmill showed that test subjects' heart rates were higher at the same pace outside than inside, indicating that the athletes had to be working harder outside. So why weren't they faster inside if it was easier? Well, because while your heart rate is an indication of how hard you're working, it does not determine how fast you are going or how fast you can go. That is all about your perception of effort. It's how hard you feel when you're working that determines performance. So even though the body works harder when running outdoors than it does when running inside on the treadmill, running outside feels easier. Samuel Marcora, an exercise physiologist at the University of Kent who famously studies the relationship between perceived effort and endurance performance, discovered that perceived effort is higher and performance is worse on the treadmill. I'll explain why right after this, and I'll also get into the question of whether you truly are getting a good enough workout inside instead of out. I want to tell you about a unique opportunity for you to get stronger, faster, and stay motivated to hit your running and nutrition goals this year, and that is to join the PR team. Each member of the team gets a custom training plan made by me for you based on your unique fitness goals and lifestyle. Everything you need to achieve your running dreams is included, such as strength training, recovery, and even cross-training if you want it. I include weekly mental strength training as well as training tips and nutrition guides. But here's where it gets really cool. The group has its own page in the app where we share workouts, ask training questions, and get feedback from me and the other teammates. And each week, I create an exclusive private podcast just for the team based on the questions I get and what I see in their training each week. And I usually end up sharing behind the scenes and exclusive sneak peeks with the team that I don't share anywhere else. So instead of joining a Facebook group or sitting through another Zoom call, you get to listen to tailored advice on the run, and you don't have to do this all alone. When you're ready to take your running to the next level and join an amazing team of runners, head to theplantedrunner.com/group and join us today. It's more affordable than you think, and I can't wait to have you. The Planted Runner is sponsored by Liquid IV. Story time. When I first started running, I just went out and ran until I had to stop. Then I walked home. No fueling, no hydration, no plan at all. It actually kind of worked, but I was out there a long time until I finally figured out there's a better way to train. And it turns out there's a better way to hydrate than just water. Rehydrate with Liquid IV's Energy Multiplier, sugar-free hydrating energy. It's scientifically formulated to support physical energy, hydration, focus, mood, and social stamina, so it's perfect when you need a little boost on the run. Just one stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Powered by Live Hydroscience, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. Rehydrate better with better hydration and energy from Liquid IV, zero sugar and zero crash. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code PLANTED at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code PLANTED at liquidiv.com. Welcome back to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. Research has shown that even though a treadmill is supposedly helping you run, your perceived effort is higher and your performance is worse inside. Why is that? Well, when you run outside, there are 3 factors that have been shown to reduce your perception of effort: the increased airflow on your body, the visual sensation of movement, and the greater distraction from your changing environment. And for those who load the treadmill, the more obvious reason is the treadmill can be dreadfully boring. And when you're bored or frustrated or angry or emotional, everything feels harder in life. The lack of visual stimulation on the treadmill can cause you to hyper-focus on how hard running feels instead of being happily distracted by the sights outside. Or you could be scared of flying off the back of the machine or simply be uncomfortable, both of which raise the heart rate and perception of effort. Another possible factor is the ability to micro-adjust outside. You have a greater sense of freedom of movement outdoors, and you can make subtle and more frequent changes that you might not even be aware that you're doing, giving you a sense of freedom that feels more pleasant than banging away on the treadmill. That sense of autonomy in your movement improves your mood and motivation, which probably also affects perceived effort. So if you want to make your indoor runs as equivalent as possible to your outdoor runs, don't focus on the incline or your heart rate or even your pace. Leave the incline alone and focus on your perceived effort. If you have a hard workout, run hard. If you have an easy run, put a podcast in your ears like this one and run easy. When you have your effort level just right, you should find that both your speed and your heart rate are slightly lower than they would be if you were running at the same effort level on the road. In other words, you'll run a little slower, assuming your machine is calibrated correctly, and your heart rate will be a little lower, but you're getting the equivalent workout as you would outside because you're working just as hard. My next tip is to turn a fan on. Not only will the breeze feel good when you get hot, but those feel-good feelings of sensation of airflow actually makes your run feel easier. Plus, you'll get that added wind resistance without needing to change the incline. The next thing to note is that your watch will never, ever be perfectly matched to the readings on the treadmill. I'm going to blame the technology simply not being accurate enough, both on your watch and on the treadmill. Using a foot pod like a stride can help since it learns your unique stride length, so it should make the readings a little closer, but you're going to have to just accept a certain amount of uncertainty about the data. You know what I do? I just go with the one that tells me I'm faster. One question I get a lot about the treadmill is, could you truly get just as good of a workout as you could outside? Many runners feel like it's cheating inside, especially when they run speed work. Some runners even say that they can hit paces inside that they're just not capable of reaching outside, so it must be giving them an unfair advantage. To that, I say, you're majoring in the minors. Yes, there are differences, but it's just not enough to make a real difference in your fitness. Unless you're 99.99% optimized with everything in your training and you're looking for every scrap of improvement you can, you're gonna be okay on the treadmill. So just let that fear go. What's fabulous about the treadmill for speed work is that you can just lock in. You get your brain out of the way and your legs just do the work. Remember, the main challenge of the treadmill is mental, not physical. So if you're able to hit paces on the machine that you can't outside, keep building your confidence indoors, and in time, your legs will remember. You're building your speed capacity, whether it's inside or out. And the other reality is, if your main goal is performance at long distances, it really doesn't matter if you're better at 400 meters inside versus outside. Yes, it's ideal to train on a course similar to what you are racing as much as you can, but unless you are training for a track event, the fact that you're not running your 400s on a track is kind of irrelevant. Now we come to the most important question of all. How do you make the treadmill less boring? After all, the treadmill was invented as a torture device, so it's natural to hate it, at least at first. My first suggestion is to take a moment to understand how lucky you are in the first place to have access to the technology. Hating the treadmill is a very first world problem. So if you're fortunate enough to be able to run on one, I truly recommend embracing gratitude to have such a great tool in your life. The next thing to be grateful for is that you can have your drinks, your snacks, and your bathroom all conveniently at hand. This is not the case outside, and those reasons alone are why some people grow to love the treadmill. Parents of young kids especially can benefit from a treadmill at home, and it's often the only way to sneak in a run during precious nap time. Learn to embrace any distraction that you have on hand to make it more fun. Binge watch hours of Netflix, listen to an exciting audiobook, or jam out to your favorite Taylor Swift album. The less you think about the fact that you're running while going nowhere, the better. But the most important part of learning to embrace the treadmill is your attitude. You can actually transform your cranky teenager boredom into a mental challenge that will ultimately make you tougher. During one particularly snowy winter, I was training for an early spring marathon, and I spent many long runs on the treadmill. Eventually, I learned to lean into the experience instead of dreading it, simply because I didn't have much choice. Running hard for 3 hours in a gym makes you feel like a Jedi master of mind control, and it really just takes a shift in your attitude about it. I learned to actually love those long runs, staring out on the snowy landscape with fun music in my ears, lip syncing to every word. I found a focal point in the distance and played little mind games like, how long could I stare at that single spot without breaking focus? Could I make it through an entire song while staring at the same spot? I played lots of different mental mind games that winter, and I even got to the point where I felt I could easily run an entire marathon on a treadmill. I didn't actually do that, but I probably would have. The reality is, I got superior training on the treadmill that winter than I could have gotten outside. There's no way I could have done high-end speed work or even faster tempo runs bundled up in the snow. And finally, my last tip is to bring a small towel and cover the screen. There is nothing worse than staring at numbers that move glacially slow, reminding you how long you've been running in place. Use your watch instead, or just peek at the screen on occasion. Once you accept the fact that the treadmill is actually a great place to get mentally and physically fitter, you might just enjoy those indoor runs a little bit more. And now it's time for the Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. Today's topic is just 2 words. It's just. When you are nervous about a big run or a race, your nervous system is in a high state of stress. If you try to talk to yourself in a positive way, saying, I've got this, or I'm going to crush this, it can sometimes backfire because it actually adds more pressure. Instead, use what's called minimization self-talk and say, it's just a race. It's just a mile. It's just one day, and on and on. Make the task so small that you release the pressure on yourself and you can actually perform your best. Kind of like what you're listening to now is just a podcast. Thank you for listening to The Planted Runner, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Don't forget that you can enter to win a free custom training plan for your next race and get featured on the show. Just write an Apple Podcast review and enter at theplantedrunner.com/PRLab. Of course, reviews are the #1 way to boost this show's reach, and it's a great way to tell me what you'd like to hear next because I read every single one. Have a great run today.